A privilege and a pleasure to join remotely tonight and to look at a topic which is dear to my heart. If you are close to me, you would know that it's something I do not joke with at all. And I write on it a lot as well on various platforms. Tonight, we would want to get God's perspective when it comes to what we mean professional excellence. And we want to briefly look into the topic, how do we position ourselves as people of God? So we're going to explore this from the lenses of faith, above all things. And before we do that, I would want us to pray. Father, we thank you. We give you praise. We know you are the source of all excellence. Tonight, speak to us once more. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Great. So I'm going to do this in two parts. And like the MC Riley mentioned, I would try and compress this in the next 30 minutes, which is the presentation part. So please, MC, help me with some prompts. I know sometimes when you talk about something you are passionate about, it could go overboard. So that we can allow the last 30 minutes of our meeting to really engage, because sometimes there's a lot on people's minds, and our midweek services are platforms where we try to, move away from Sunday typical preaching to also have what is top of mind for people. And collectively, with the wisdom and excellence that is in the room tonight, we'll be able to answer all questions. So I would put up my screen and run through a couple of slides I made for this session. Let me know if you can see my slide. Let me put it to presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, please.
Yes,
I can see
please.
from my end.
Super. This one, hide panel. Oh, let's see. Maybe it goes. So again, the topic is for us to see how we can position ourselves for professional excellence. And like I said at the beginning, I'm going to explore it from the lens of faith. The second one would be on purpose and also performance in today's world. So what is the outline? We're going to structure this in 5 parts. And the very first part is to satisfy your curiosity. So these days, everybody asks, what is in it for me? Or you first have to tell people why whatever you are saying is important, else you lose them. That is symptomatic of our generation. So I'll first tell you why professional excellence really matters. Then we would move away from that to first ground ourselves into some biblical foundations that really provide us with a basis for this topic, which is excelling professionally. Then what else? In laying this foundation, we're going to ask ourselves a lot of questions in the foundations, and we'll try to answer the questions by exploring it from the perspective of people I would call the giants of faith, people who have gone ahead of us. They have made a lot happen, and they have shown excellence in many shapes and forms. So what else or who else can we learn from but from these giants of faith? So we look at them, we look at just 3 of them. We look at Daniel, we look at Joseph, and we look at Esther. And once we conclude that, we would turn the attention to you. So now we know why this matters. We have laid the foundation in scripture. We've learned from the examples that have gone ahead of us. And I want to apply it a bit. How do we navigate our career? So I want to apply all this to our career and take some lessons out of this. And the lessons will come in the form of some practical takeaways, and then have a reflection question. So we need to reflect a bit, and then we go into the Q&A. So without much ado, I would zoom into it. So why this matters? Simply, the fact is that our faith, as we know as Christians, is never separate. So if you go to church today and your life is like the faith is only when you go to church or on Sundays and your life at the workplace is completely different, then you are living in a dual state. And we know duality doesn't really work. It doesn't get anything from God, as James would tell us. So again, we need to really have this together. Our faith is not separate from our professional life. And again, excellence is actually what we are called to do. Apostle Paul, again, speaking to the church in Corinth, actually mentioned what a standard church or congregation should be. He identified one aspect that they were not excelling it, which was giving. But before then, he actually covered all parts that they were excellent in. And actually, he began by saying that since you excel in everything, so he says everything, and then he recounted them except the one that they are missing, which is giving. And what did he recount? He counted their excellence in faith, in speech, in knowledge, wisdom, whatever. So the call for us as Christians, as people of faith, is for us to excel in all things. So you cannot say, for me, I'm not going to be excellent. The call is for us all to be excellent. Again, when you look at the second point today, we see that, I mean, the churches as they used to be, where we know are the places where we win souls, we actually draw people. It's changing a bit. You know, back in the day, you could have people walk into the chapels, but sometimes you go for service severally, and before someone walks to the service uninvited, it surprises us. Sometimes we clap a lot because it doesn't happen frequently. Why? Because the marketplace for souls or the mission field is changing drastically. And one of those places has to do with the workplace. And when we are there in the workplace, we become those ambassadors that Jesus Christ is making a pleading to the world through us. And lastly, I would say excellence is a powerful testimony. When you excel, it becomes a testimony so powerful that everybody recognizes it. And you don't need to tell people the God you serve before they see it. The testimony is there for them. It is lucid for everyone to see. And now, when you consider the scripture in Matthew 5:16, it says, look, let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify the Father who is in heaven. Now, what is he saying? Is basically for you to excel. So light is something that really, when put on top of a hill, really brightens. It shows or radiates some level of excellence. That is the call we have. And that is why this topic tonight really matters. So I'll proceed for us to continue and look into the biblical foundations that grounds our topic tonight. A few things I'm going to mention, which are the epitome of excellence or really anchor the topic of excellence. And number one is diligence. So diligence, many will say it's the engine room of competence. So if you want to excel, diligence is one thing you cannot play with. And Bible tells us, rightly so, in Proverbs 22:29, says, seeth a man diligent in his ways. And what lies at the other side? He says, look, the man is not going to serve what's the name, mean people or people who are obscure or lowly people, but he will be elevated to serve kings and queens and people in high authority. So if you excel through diligence, you are able to get onto that pedestal. And here the question we'll be asking ourselves tonight, and I mentioned in the next setting, we'll try to answer them, is when it comes to diligence, are you developing the skills that God has given you with all your heart? Like there is some level of diligence that must come with what you do, the skill you have. The second point I would want to make as a foundation to this topic of excellence is nothing but faithfulness. And in many respects as well, it's kind of stewardship of what has been committed or given to us. Now, that you find it classically in the book of Luke, the chapter number 16, the verse 10, it says, he who is faithful in little is faithful in much. He who is faithful in little is faithful in much. The same way, the opposite as well. If you are dishonest in little, you'll be dishonest as well in lot. So then the guiding question here is, am I really multiplying the resources God has entrusted to me for his glory? So keep these questions in mind. We'll try to answer them with the subsequent segments. Now, if you look at the third one, which is integrity, it's at the core of excellence. So to excel, there must be some benchmark. There's some barest minimum. And some of these have to do with integrity principle. And this we find in Daniel. The book of Daniel tells us that, look, this guy's integrity was faultless. People were looking for him to even find fault, but they can't find it. So again, the question for you and I here when it comes to integrity is, am I building my career on the foundation of truth or otherwise? The next one I would want to speak about skill and wisdom. So again, we've seen in the book of Kings how people were summoned to come and work in the house of God to build tabernacles and all that. And we saw that these were not ordinary people. They were people who were excellent in their chosen fields. They were skilled in the making of bronze, wood, whatever. We saw the likes of Hiram, Bezalel, and many others that were mentioned. They have skill sets that they have honed, developed into the realms of excellence, that when we're looking for the finest to build a tabernacle for the Lord, we knew who to call. It was not every name which qualified per se to be called to build that, but people who really embodied this, people who really have shown this kind of skill set, which is uncommon among the people of Israel. Those are the people that came to mind. Now, we move on and we look at vision. So vision is also very key when it comes to building excellence. So sometimes for me, the basis is, what vision, do you have? What are you aspiring towards? And that vision, does it embody excellence? Because when you define, we said integrity is like the baseline, the benchmark for excellence. It must be present. But then what is the ceiling or what is the height? That comes with vision, to project and say, look, my life is going to go this way, or I'm going to steer it this way. And this direction must embody excellence in all shapes and forms. In all shapes and forms. And lastly, but not the least, is humility. This is also very, very important. Very, very important. The Bible tells us in Philippians 2:3 that we should always, always consider others better in all humility than us. And so humility is very, very important when it comes to excellence. So these are the questions I want you to keep in mind. Are you leading or serving with the interest of others in mind when it comes to humility? And we'll try to answer them from the next segment, which speaks about the giants of faith, and then also when we are trying to navigate our own careers. So now let's look at the giants of faith. I'm rushing, rightly so, because I would want to really give back the 30 minutes for the questions and answers, which would take us even further. So the first person who comes to mind when it comes to professional excellence is the man Daniel. And this man really embodies someone who excelled, or a person of faith who excelled so much in a system that was uncompromising. So this is someone who was found in a pagan system. And today, what has it left for us to look when we look at the story of Daniel? When we look at the life of Daniel, what it leaves for us is nothing but a blueprint that, look, we can also maintain faith that is uncompromising, irregardless of regardless of the environment that we find ourselves in. What happened to this man? This guy is a Jewish noble, got thrown into the civil service in Babylon, and this civil service is one which is, kind of deeply involved in a religion that is contrary to his, or a worship that is contrary to his. And what happened? He actually, through this constraint, an external environment which is hostile, an external environment which runs counter to all that he has known and has embodied in life, he had to defy those odds and come up with performance at a level of excellence and exception, to the point that he rose to be a top advisor to people, to kings and queens in their realms. And when you compare such person, Bible tells us in the book of Daniel that, look, his wisdom and how he executes or goes about his tasks were so flawless that when they compared him with his peers, when they compared him with the magicians of Babylon and all that, he was 10 times the 10x, Sometimes we can't even find the difference between us and our peers because we are all the same and we say birds of the same feather flock together. But this is where, even in a system which was of the same feather, which could even, constrain you to compromise, constrain you to just, let down your guards. This guy got to a level that the difference between him and any other person that could measure next to him was 10x. Now, that set him apart. That character trait actually set him apart. And once those were in place, the courage and the resolve not to defile himself with the pleasures of Babylon and the king's meal came naturally. They just came naturally because, the character was planted. He was very resolute. He had wisdom and all that. So courage springs up. Now, what am I saying here is the fact that, look, in our world of work, which is often described as secular, if you compare it in the case of Daniel, would be this pagan Babylonian system. We do not always have to compromise one's faith to be excellent in this kind of workplaces. People will tell you, oh, for my workplace, this is what happens here. And until you do that, you're not going to go further. People go to certain workplaces, they'll tell them to rise to become a CEO, you have to belong to a certain court. If you are not part of it, it's not going to happen. And you see those who are part of it getting their positions and moving. But you see, my brothers and sisters, you do not have to compromise your faith to excel in this kind of workplaces. And Daniel is a living example. I'll go quickly to the next person, the next giant that we need to discuss today. The next giant is Joseph. Joseph is someone whose circumstance demonstrated some profound excellence in the face of injustice or corporate politics. Again, you and I are very familiar with this. Sometimes, we say why we could not excel, or the case for excellence for us professionally is because there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of injustice. People are favoring their clans, their friends, and all that against me and all that. Yes, they exist, but the core hasn't changed for us to continue to be excellent. Let's go through Joseph's life and maybe probably mirror that to your workplace and tell me if what he went through and still it's now a benchmark for professional excellence. You have suffered half of that before you are already giving up when it comes to professional excellence. Now, his career, what does it entail? He had a very non-linear career path. This is someone who, you cannot even tell how things were going to unfold. The way we plan our life, I'll go to school, I'll get this degree, I'll start work in MTN or whatever, and then I'll grow like this. In 5 years, I become a manager. In 15 years, I become CEO. So those are the kind of career paths. Imagine Joseph. One day he's a favored son, coat of many colors, and all that. Jealousy arose. He was sold into slavery. He became a prison administrator, and boom, he becomes a prime minister. What a career. What a career path. It defies everything. I'm sure when he was wandering in prison, probably would be thinking when they would just deal with him. But now this is someone who rules. But then this non-linear career path, he still managed to show professional competencies which were excellent, which were exceptional. Number one, as prime minister, there was a lot of management and planning in his work. So again, there was how do you call it, a dream, and with this dream that there will be 7 years of abundance, 7 years of lack. And what did it trigger in him as PM? He quickly jumped into action, deployed resources, planned, managed them, and made sure that when the period of abundance ceased and then the period of lack got ushered in, people really have enough to survive. Again, that speaks to the professional competence, which is to really scan the horizon, to look from now and the next 5 years. What are the opportunities in the system? Look at the various, today it might not be a dream. It might be pockets of opportunities in the system. Are you scanning, or you are living just in today? Tomorrow you wake up and there is nothing. You just wake up, sleep and wake up, and anything can happen. Are you doing that, or you are scanning the horizon, searching for opportunities and deploying some of these competencies that God has given to you? Now, he did not even just serve the people there, but then all the nations around, administratively, he managed to serve them, and by so doing, got a lot in return and made that kingdom even greater. And why did this all happen? He had a very, very great character. He had a great character. Then came a test for that same character and integrity that he had. But you see, once those are very foundational for him, integrity and character, it was very easy. And his response to the test of Potiphar actually was even more profound. Now, what am I leaving with you when it comes to Joseph? Is the fact that true excellence is not deterred. We are not saying that the injustice or corporate politics won't happen. They would always be there. They were there before you were born, and they will continue to be there. But you see, your excellence, if it is a true one, is actually forged through them. You have to break barriers and boundaries, live through them. Don't let them define you, but define your excellence, living through this corporate politics and injustice. And that way, you are able to prove that, look, if it is a godly character that gives you that resilience in career, and not, the kind of promotion that you get from corporate politics. Because if someone favors you today, tomorrow he might resign, he might be transferred, he will not favor you. The best is for you to push and push on and demonstrate that true excellence. Now, the next and the final one from the giants that I would want us to look at is Esther. So here it's very, very important. In the corporate world, we say that you have to lead or influence without authority. It's a very, very common terminology these days, because we're trying to remove all the hierarchies in the corporation. So a lot depends on your influence. How much can you influence people? How much can you lead without formal authority? Because we've seen formal authority, you can lord it over them, even though Jesus wants us not to. But then that is easier. Anybody who leads with power, with so much authority, is not a true leader. The true leader is a servant leader, one who influences, one who leads most of the time without authority. And that is the true definition we see in the life of Esther. So when we see Esther, she didn't have any authority, but she needed to influence. She was orphaned also into exile and got some privileged position. And in that position, she didn't deem it like, oh, I'm the one who made it here, and therefore it is for my own comfort, eat and drink and enjoy, and forget about everything. But I saw it that God placed me here. And she said, for a time such as this, because the salvation of his people was dear to God. Therefore, he made way for people like that. But you must have the presence of mind that you have been born at a certain time to bring redemption to your family, to bring redemption to your clan, in fact, your village. And when you look at Esther, this is what's shown through. And she demonstrates the competencies of strategic influence, a sense of purpose, and that sprang some immense level of courage that even she defied what could have been her end, which is to get or go to the presence of the king without a sermon. And that means your life is on the line. Hallelujah. And one of the things I would want to highlight here is the sense of purpose. Very, very important. I don't know about you. I'm just going to share. For me, way, 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 way back in the day, I can tell you, I have seen shaggy in life when it comes to poverty. Poverty has dealt with us. I've seen it. There were certain times I go hide and cry for my family. as early as 10 or 8 years. I could feel it because I don't know how come we're the only people so poor like this. I would have to go to the corn mill and ask to buy the leftover of all that people came mixed with that black oil that we can prepare. Sometimes you go and they say, "Oh, you go. We are not done yet. We'll do," and then they'll use those brooms to sweep. This is the chaff on the ground, stepped over, trampled over, and all that. And sometimes, as at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., we come home and my mother says, "Well, there's no food, there's no money," and we are there hoping against hope that food would come. I've seen those things, and so when the doors open, I told myself, and I keep saying that, look, the only way to deliver my family, at least the nuclear family at the time, is for me to study. And so sometimes, so like if I need to kill because I look at myself at the time, I was very skinny. I can't even farm. I couldn't do anything. And the only thing was to study. And so I took it very serious. Those who went to school with me knew that some of these things were then, and I'm speaking about the sense of purpose. You need to discover that purpose, why you are living or you are striving for the kind of excellence that you need to live for. Now, so very important. Sometimes you do not always have leadership where you give orders. You can use influence, tact, wisdom, strategy, and courage to advocate for the right things to be done or to cause a change of circumstances that you came to meet. It might not be your fault. You didn't cause it. But once you strike that chord, you have that sense of purpose deep down. You would tell yourself that I must excel because I need to change the course of history. Now, let's turn the attention to you. And I see I'm already running out of time. I would ask for 10 more minutes. So it means we'll have just 20 for the questions. Let's now turn the attention to you. How do you navigate this? So we know why this topic is important. We look at the biblical foundations. We explore 3 giants of faith whose life have encouraged us, hopefully, by the way I shared them in a much summarized way. Now, when it comes to you, how do you navigate your career with excellence and above all faith? For me, I group them into certain buckets. The very first one is to understand the terrain. When it comes to Ghana, there's still a lot of hierarchy in the system, and it calls for you to have some level of personal relationships. Communications could also be very indirect in the workplace, so you must learn to read the room to understand what it is that is going on and how can you understand, be self-aware, and just not live anyway at the workplace. Second thing that stands out for me when you look at Ghana typically is the fact that, look, you have to build relationships because that's what matters to get you further. The relationships are the currency on which some of the excellence or progress is made. And now you need to also understand that you need to respect and honor authority when it's due. And this is clear in Romans 13, verse 1. Bible instructs us that we should submit to governments and anybody in authority. We should submit. So please do that. And here the model of Daniel becomes handy that we discussed earlier. With Daniel, he was in Babylonia. He was in Babylon. Now with these were pagan authorities, but he submitted when the need to submit is there. But the submission does not also mean, or is not equivalent to letting your guard down or compromising. There's a difference between that. So when I say submit and honor authority, it's because you are honoring it in the right way, not the submission because you just follow everything in there. There's a difference. You need to figure that out. In the interest of time, the second thing I would want to mention is the fact that there are some ethical minefields. There are some sages that you need to really navigate. You need to, kind of find your way. The ones with ethics will hit you when it comes to bribery, nepotism, corruption, and all that. Again, a lot of attitude. You start work and you see people. I always say in the workplace, there are different caucuses. You come, and if you are serious, you find those who are serious and you pitch camp with them. You do business with that caucus. People also come, and it's the gossip caucus. It's those that are not punctual that they try to, associate with. You need to find your level. Learn again from Daniel and make sure your reputation goes ahead of you and be known for something, which is exceptional competence. And borrowing the words of Sam Kujeto Ablakwa, unimpeachable integrity in all you do. You must make sure that happens. And again, when it comes to corruption and bribery, just remember the admonition in Exodus 23. It says, look, when you give bribe, or bribery actually perverts justice and blinds people. What things that you should be open to once you accept or you give bribe, you kind of forget about that. We need to guard against that. In James 2, 1 to 4, Bible was very explicit as well, telling us that we should not show favoritism. And it calls that, when the saying goes, brothers, my brothers and sisters, do not show favoritism. It's very, very specific instructions. But now, contrast that James 2:1-4 to Galatians 6:10, which says, look, when you have the opportunity, try and do good to all people, especially the people that belong to the household of faith. Very good, but they are very different things. Favoritism or nepotism versus doing good to the people of the household of faith is very different. And I urge you to find the difference and do that. To conclude on this, I would say avoid shortcuts as much as possible. Your reputation is all you have. It is your testimony of God's goodness towards you, and don't trade it for anything in the workplace. Now, here I'll try to say, let's apply some kingdom strategies to our career advancement. Here I'm going to be a bit fast about it because some of these things are things you have heard. You just need to process them the right way. Now, when it comes to this, we spoke about it at the beginning. We need to continue to integrate faith and work. They are not either or, they are and. This and faith and work, they go hand in hand. You need to actually integrate them. And when it comes to decisions, pray before them. Your ethics, we need it to reflect Christ. Your workplace, treat it as the pulpit for which you are preaching to anybody who may not take the invite to come to your church, but is watching you when you come to work, what you pick from work, what you do. You are now, your life is on a pulpit at the workplace. Make sure the right things are coming from that pulpit to glorify God. The second thing I want to mention is we first need to take a step back and define what success really is. You see, the point where our excellence is often skewed or it goes sideways is the fact that we actually are looking at excellence through the lens of the world, where it is more status, it is more positions, wealth, and self-promotion and aggrandizement. But when you look at it from God's perspective, it is about purpose, it is about impact, it's about service and stewardship. I won't go through all of this, but just have it in mind. When you define success like this, then you have situated your ability to be excellent right. Now, the next one, moving a bit into the realms of that which we are used to or we want to hear. Network strategically. But of course, this is also grounded in scripture. Proverbs 27:17 says, look, iron sharpeneth iron. So your networking is because you are rendering yourself to be sharpened by an authority or a peer that has gone ahead or has something you both can share together and become sharper on either side. Now, the next one is to keep learning and upgrading. Bible tells us clear, in all that getting, get understanding. So the point is for you to continue to learn. Your first degree that you took to the workplace will not survive or will not suffice. How do you build on what you brought and adapt? Today, it is a world of AI. Sometimes you might even need to go back and look at all these things. If you continue writing proficiency in Excel, Word and Office suite, I mean, you are late. Probably you might be thinking proficiency in AI prompting, advanced prompting, and all those are the things, The next one is on digital branding and networking. So again, a lot of it, what is your profile? How are you telling the world about the skill set God has given you? I know LinkedIn can be a bit political and people actually exaggerate things, but it's important because we need to let our light so shine before men. So they'll see us and give glory to the Father in heaven. And so we can do it and do it godly manner. Now, when it comes to salary negotiations, here it's also the point where most of us, in our quest to be excellent, it's a taboo, and we say, "Oh, you give me anything." No, not at all. An excellent person is one who knows his worth or market value and is able to combine that kind of humility and confidence to be able to negotiate and really have a fair deal that works for both. Because we sign up to certain things, and 2, 3 months into their work, we cannot do that. And the next one I want to talk about is season opportunity. Do you know about remote opportunities? A lot are there. What are the new skill sets that are getting you into the right place? And how do you turn yourself to compete as a global talent and not as a local champion? Because there's a whole world of difference when you sit in Ghana. Look, the way our workplace works and how it works globally is very different. And if you really want to have a border career, cross-border opportunities, because Ghana, how many jobs are they
You have to
creating?
get up and go and do it.
You see how many graduates are coming from the universities, a lot of them, and the spaces are not there to accommodate them. So maybe at some point we need to export talent, but you first must turn yourself into a global talent, worth consideration or look, else you cannot be that excellent. Now, in all this doing, there's one which is dear to my heart. It's not necessarily because I'm good at it. I'm still learning, and I'm actually ministering also to myself. In all these things, how do we, build our career with that kind of excellence and faith, but we balance it? How do we balance our work? How do we balance our work, our family, and rest? So this, I'm going to skip it in the interest of time. But if you look at this scripture in 1 Timothy 5, verses 8, it's telling us, it's telling us that anyone who fails to provide for his relatives and family, especially his household, has denied the faith or has betrayed the faith, and that person is worse than an unbeliever. And so the point here is this, and when I was doing this, it spoke to me, and I'm taking steps to correct that because it's been crazy sometimes. Now, practical takeaways as we conclude. Few keys, if you would want to call it that way, because that's what resonates with the world's audience these days. Be clear on your calling. Know what you are called for, your sense of purpose that we spoke about. Set the standards, the ceiling or the limits. There's no even limit to excellence, but set some goals, some ambition on what you want to see as excellence professionally. Seek mentorship, because iron sharpens iron. Manage time, and in everything, have an anchoring in prayer. Now, this is the reflection question, even as we dive into Q&A. If your workplace was the only Bible your colleagues ever read, what story will it tell about God? So reflect on this, and we jump into the discussion. So back to you, MC, and sorry for the extra 10 minutes.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much. That is a very, like someone would say, powerful presentation. And it's indeed very powerful, straight to the point, loaded. And I believe it picks some lessons. We'll try and engage our speaker more with some questions. I see that there's a question in the chat box. Yeah, please let me see your claps. I see one person clapping. That is great. It deserves a lot of claps. Thank you. So we'll have some questions. Let's take the one in the chat box. Feel free to drop yours in the chat box as well, so we can read it to the speaker to address it for us. And you can raise your hand also and speak. We would like you to speak. That is encouraged. So the first question we have here is, what is one habit you believe set professional excellence apart? What is that one habit that really sets the professional excellent person apart from everyone else? The second one is, how is professional excellence different from doing your work well? Just doing your work well. How is it different from professional excellence? So I'll let you address these two briefly, and then I'll let the others, please raise your hand if he's done to ask your question. If you don't have a question, at least please react to the presentation. Give us a feedback. Let us know what you think away and all of that. Okay, so please, 2 questions to you to be addressed.
Okay, thank you very much. I would want to open it up as well to the room. There's a lot of excellence all over. I wouldn't say what I said is sacrosanct, and yeah, there are many people. So feel free, jump in, share something, respond to a question and all that. I'll try to, share from my perspective, but I'm counting on Osofo and the leadership team as well, and anybody virtually who has inputs and ideas. So to the very first question, what is that one thing? Again, if it's one thing, probably I would have come with just one slide and we just talk about that one thing. We spoke about so many things in between. So I wouldn't try to constrict or constrain professional excellence into that one thing. And again, if you want to even push it further to say, which of all the things you said probably is the most important? Again, I would deflect it a bit to also say that depending on the time or horizon of your career, certain things might be very important. So, for instance, if you get an entry-level job out of school, at some point, yours is to work hard, learn as much as you can. And it's different from, learning other things which people who have been there 10 years are trying to do to get to the next level. So what is required of you? So excellence could be different from growth horizon to another, from person to person. And all these elements, in a way, address it. You look at the biblical foundations of all. We ask a lot of questions at the beginning. Do you have the needed integrity? Are you diligent? Are you really humble? Are you executing with skill, wisdom, and all that? So they are ingredients. Some will come. It's a mix of all of them to get the best out of, or to get to true professional excellence. The second one dealt with the fact that, look, what is the difference between excellence and doing my work? You see, the word excellence actually, I believe, comes from the root word to excel, and to excel is to go beyond and above, or to exceed what is the usual norm. What you describe sounds to me like your usual one. So that's what we call giving your 100%. And long time ago at work, one of my bosses said, look, what is in your JD is what we pay you for. So that one is done. Everything else, which is the excellence, is not on your JD. So if you go and you just look at your job description and you start, they said, let me do this, and then that's the base. Doing your work, you've done it, but you've not excelled. The people who were summoned in the book of Kings to build the tabernacle, everybody was doing their work, but theirs stood out because they went over and above. They went beyond. They did something which made them uncommon, like their renditions of the same skill set or art in making bronze was very deep. When you see their bronze, you know this guy probably didn't sleep the whole night to get to this level of perfection or excellence. So it's not the same thing as doing your job, but I would see it more as going beyond and above. Thank you very much.
Amen. Yes, so I believe we've been answered. Please, if you have any add-on, feel free to add. Yes, I see the clapping. If you have any add-on, please feel free to add. Like he rightly said, we can learn from each other as well. And he has given us the perfect explanation, but feel free to add if you have any. There's another question I have here from one of us from the chat box. He's asking, can one be excellent without integrity? or have integrity without excellence? Which should be a priority? Can one be excellent without integrity or have integrity without excellence? Which should be a priority? That's a loaded question, and I believe our speaker will do justice to it. So please,
Yeah,
Bradison.
yeah, thank you so much. Well, when you listen to the biblical foundations, we said the basis or the foundation of all this is on some integrity, you know. It is built on integrity, without which it won't stand. So look at it like you are building a house. If the foundation is weak, which speaks to things like integrity, whatever you build on it won't stand. It's just a matter of time. Look, and once you breach that code, it doesn't take long, I can tell you. There were many times, and personally, permit me to share. I got into work and again in finance, and you oversee so many things. And Ghana suppliers, they come and then they entice you with a lot. I've seen and rejected bribes for people who want to maintain contracts and do things in my life that could change a lot. But look, it didn't make sense to me. You know what I told one of them in the face? I said, you know what? The career I see ahead of me is bigger. I'm not going to use this money. It's big money at the time. I was national service boy or a year after service. That money was huge. I've not seen some in my life. But you see, today, if I look back at that money and by the grace of God, where I am, it's the right decision. It's just the right thing to do. And the moment you open it up, it goes. Everybody in that group of suppliers would know that, oh, this guy, this is his stock in trade. People talk. And for me, I do not want you to have a cause to say nonsense, because I went to my school. I knew where I'm coming from. I knew my purpose and what I'm fighting against, that nobody should experience the kind of poverty I experienced growing up. And by the grace of God, I know I'll get there. It is not your money on the way. So for me, I wouldn't say what is excellence without integrity? It won't stand. That's the short answer. It won't stand. Just take it from me.
All right. Thank you. Yes, excellent without integrity won't stand. That is true. Any question, please? We want to hear the voices as well. Please raise your hand. Okay, great. There's a hand from Prince that I do admin. Please, you have the floor. Ask your question, please.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the great presentation. I want to ask on the issue of visibility. I think you alluded to the fact that at some point the fact that we should make our light so shine that many shall see and praise God. Where do you strike the right balance between making your work or yourself seen versus just trying to make sure that you are getting things done and moving on? Because especially when you make that at the point of making that transition between being an entry level or officer or getting to the point where you actually have to start leading, how do you strike that balance within the corporate space? That's something I'm trying to get an understanding of.
Great question. And it's now one of those things in the corporate world, because everybody's it's putting him or herself out there. Sometimes you log into LinkedIn and you are in the same team or department, and the spin some people put to just very easy things you accomplish. Some of them were not even at the heart of that accomplishment, but they will embellish it as their work or their brainchild out there and all that. In all things, again, like we saw, that kind of humility, that in all things, Bible told us actually that we should be humble, and we should exalt others above ourselves. That balance comes in when you understand that there is a place to sell yourself, there's a place to let your light so shine before men, but there's also a place to be real and not fake. The light that is to shine shouldn't be a fake light. It must be a real light. So when you put that together and also do it in such humility, I have this friend or this colleague at work that people would ask me, what is happening. Because this guy, even the job title he puts on LinkedIn makes him bigger than the boss at the workplace. So, there's a general manager. I mean, and then your title is sales manager. Then you make the title regional sales manager. So, and then you put Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia. So then everybody's asking, so there's a general manager for Ghana, and Ghana is a territory that oversees these other countries. And then this guy is a regional manager and he lists the countries, like those kind of things. You go to some place, your boss gives you the platform. The kind of you watch and learn how people moderate some of these things, what your boss will put out as what was reasonably achieved and all that versus what you push out. So you just need to be, self-aware in many spaces, but also embody the things of humility and also be very real, authentic, and all those still comes to the root of integrity. If you have integrity, you don't go overselling yourself. And again, we spoke about underselling ourselves in salary negotiation. It's more about the balance. A just balance actually delights the Lord. Yeah. So that's my long answer to your short question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, do we have any more? We have 2 minutes at hand we have some 2 minutes to see if we can answer any other. I have a question too, which is something that I observe among a lot of our colleagues, Christians. We tend to assume that because we are God's child and we are God's people, we would have productivity and diligence sorted out for us. So you see the person is very committed to the things of God and portray Christ-likeness, but when it comes to certain things about productivity and diligence, they don't really care. How do we really balance these two? Being a Christian and exhibiting it clearly, but leaving out some aspects of Christ-likeness, like being productive at what you are to do and being diligent at finding the solutions that meet, the problems at the workplace and all of that. How do we really balance that? Do we, for the sake of being God's chosen people and a special people of God, blessed and favored, the doors will be open for us by divine orchestration and all of that? Do we undermine the role of productivity and diligence? And how do we blend the two without losing the role of God coming through for us in many instances? If you can also just address us briefly on that or clarify some issues around that area, it might help a lot of us. Yeah.
So quickly, thanks for raising that. These are the group of Christians that get me mad and angry. People who I say they are entitled and they feel by virtue of being Christian, everything must happen. Again, when you look at the topic, the sub-bullet I put on the slide is positioning yourself for professional excellence, exploring it through the angle of faith, your purpose, and performance. So the third one is actually also important. Faith alone and the purpose would not do it. They are nonetheless very important. But you have to. God himself was like, he worked for 6 days and he rested one. There's a blueprint. Jesus walked the face of this earth and he said, look, whilst it is day, I must do the works of my Father. Because a time comes, then you wake up and decide that because I prayed all through the night, glory be to God, you did. But you see, that wouldn't make the job get done. It wouldn't get you to the next level. It is pure laziness, and I hate it. They make the faith unattractive, and they actually, in the long run, get disappointed. And some of them are those bitter ones who leave the faith and say, I served God, I got nothing, and all that. It is nonsense because they were serving God and felt that just by that virtue, everything else must fall in place. So the other part, which is performance was grossly overlooked and they do nothing about it. Personally, I don't see it that way. You serve God, you pray, you do everything that we have said, but when it comes to performance, you take it also seriously. Without that, faith without works is dead.
Thank you so much. Fake indeed without work, if there is no faith at all. Thank you. I think I am personally blessed by the administration. I believe you've been blessed too. Since you refuse to tell us how blessed you are, no problem. We will see you in action. So thank you so much, Brad Dickson, for sharing these insightful words with us. We believe that we'll go and be doers and not just hearers only. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you so much. So we are at the end of this. Yes, is there a question?
Apple. I don't know if.
Oh, there are 2 hands up. Wow. Okay, my time is up, but I'm going to permit you. So please do it as briefly as possible, being aware that time is up. So Nancy and James, please take yours. Nancy first, please.
No, thank you for the opportunity. My question goes this way. It's a follow-up on admin Prince Dagadu's question. It was basically about being authentic and real at the workplace. Now, based on the response Brad Dickson gave, is there a place for the word packaging? You know, most of us, we have an idea of where we want to be, or we have a faith that, oh, we want to be this in future. So whilst you are thinking about that, you are trying to package yourself to resemble that, even though you are not there yet, or the phrase fake it till you make it. Is there a place for that in this context? And if there is a place for the word packaging, what's the appropriate balance? That's my question.
Well, packaging in the true sense of the word, I don't think has a place when it comes to excellence, because it attacks the very heart of integrity. So what is packaging? It's kind of like veiling something. When we double click, it's not what you made it look externally. And that's deceit. And that kind of deception, it's meant to lure people into giving you certain kind of audience, or giving you certain favors when you are not there. Again, fake it till you. Those are things that I believe we just sit outside in the secular environment. But the goal, again, even in the secular environment, we are saying the goal is to be rich, not to look rich. So work your way out to be rich. Don't look it. It's not looking rich so people can accord you that richness doesn't help. The balance, like we've all said since the beginning, is still it. I understand also, in the interest of time, the balance might be difficult to have a prescription to say this is the balance. It will depend also on different stages and different circumstances, but maybe on the one-to-ones, or when we speak in caucus, we can get those. So I would not attempt to go deeper into the balance, or probably it could be a topic for later discussion, where we look into balance and balance only.
All right.
Please,
Okay.
I also have a question.
Oh, okay. I hope I have permission, admin and pastor, please, so that they can take the last 2 questions. But Judith, please ask your one, then I will take James.
Please, Lisa, I should go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so please, I wanted to ask about the place of refuting or taking your stance in a workspace. So there's a place for humility, there's a place for respect for authority. But when certain things are going on in a workspace where you want to be excluded from that, or to take a position on that, how do you relay your position, or let authority know that, oh, you are not in this, without exuding pride, or showing rebellion or disrespect?
Okay, good question. I'll just point you to one because sometimes I believe we Christians, we are also a sect of people who we don't look out for worthy examples. I'll point to the direction of Muslims. When you are in a workplace where we have Muslim, from the get-go, those who are real Muslims, alcohol doesn't come close. So once the person tells you I'm a Muslim, when you go for these dinners and all that, nobody even brings it close to them. Or people will be saying, oh, he's a Muslim. Sometimes he doesn't even talk. Oh, he's a Muslim. Oh, pork, no pork. And if it's on Friday that he needs to go pray or something, or even in between, they make sure they do it. The point is this: they took a stand from the get-go. They have a character that people can see. They are known for something. And that is the important one. So if you are not known for anything, is when you wake up one day and start behaving like that, they say, wow, the way the workplace is. We know everybody by what you bring in from the first day. And we'll not take you serious. So the point about taking that stand is, how do you take it from the get-go? And how are you consistent? When Daniel, we looked at those kind of things. It was not over one day that he was able to. They said they set many traps. So the workspace will have many traps. In fact, these days they are not even traps, simple. It's just a normal thing, and we cannot even say no or define or take a stand, let alone trap. If they set trap for us, God, they've killed us. The normal things that you shouldn't be doing, when they leave it, you will do it. So when you do that, you cannot take, sometimes unless maybe some people pray they move to another workplace where they are new and they have a blank slate to rewrite with. But they are old workplace, some people don't even tell people the church they go. Because if people know and say, hey, you go to this church and you are the one behaving like this, it doesn't work. So for me, the humility is important. All those things are there. By that, it shouldn't make you a docile person. You must have the courage. You must take a stand. You must be forthright. It's not also everything famanyami and you take it. No. Sometimes you have to be forthright. You have to put your foot on the ground. Insist on the right thing to be done, consistent with your own framework for excellence. When we're ending, we said, as part of the key takeaways, we said, set standards for excellence. When you have that standard, anything that falls short is easy to notice and insist on the standard. But if you don't have any standard, that is where everything, you are tossed by every wind of doctrine to and fro. Everything will go. Oh, let's go drink. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go do this. Let's do the end. And then that's it. So I hope it clarifies it a bit.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So please, James, you may come in now.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate Fokofi for this insightful presentation. One thing that Fokofi said that struck me in the presentation was the issue about office politics being there before you came into the space, so it will continue to be there, and so you would have to find a way to remain diligent and efficient and consistent with what you are doing. And if your excellence is grounded on the right foundations, you would receive the reward thereof, whether it's a promotion or it is the right recognition or acknowledgement. My question, however, is that at what point do you, the individual, say that okay, it looks like no matter how well you do or how well you excel, maybe the system or the structures are not such that you would receive that kind of recognition or that kind of that promotion. And so then at this point, I would have to leave this environment and probably move into another environment. And I ask this question because sometimes when you talk to young people, you would see that, I mean, almost in every workplace, there is that kind of thing. Someone will say that, oh, sometimes I send a message to my boss and it doesn't go to my boss's boss when it has to go there. And the whole thing looks like, okay, I'm the one who is not being forthcoming with my communication and all of that. So it appears like you may want to live here in your mind. You think, okay, there is a certain utopian workplace where, I mean, whatever you want, you get. The structures, systems are in place, and everything is working, and that is where you want to get to someday. But when you talk to people, you say that, okay, the politics is almost everywhere, the sabotaging is almost everywhere. When and how do you come to that conclusion that no, at this point, this is not the right environment for me, and so I have to move on to the next one? I don't know if my question is clear.
It is, Brother James. Thanks a lot. So it's about when is the toxicity, or in Galamsey terms, the turbidity of the river is too much for us. So we protest, or we leave, and all that. Yep, absolutely. Sometimes the environment may not be the right one. And for me, my short prescription would be, if you, again, like we said, anchor everything in prayer, seek God's mind on many issues. I know it's generic, but please do it. Because I can tell you, someone like admin knows, sometimes we talk a lot. And if I tell you, sometimes maybe the kind of job offers that come, that I reject, and most of them would pay more than what you are earning. But you look at many things, it wasn't even like maybe the current environment is also okay 100%, but nowhere is 100%. And like we said, all this politics is everywhere. But it gets to a point you need to seek the face of God. Is it the right time? Sometimes the answer would be you need to stay, or the right wave would be continue to stay, because a door is coming to open, and a door will indeed open that will justify all that wait and all that you have to endure, even in the waiting. Perfect. But there could be others where the prescription is that that door is not opening within the same firm, it's opening outside of it, and you need to make a move. It says, look, in scripture, Bible says, we have encamped here too much and for too long, and we need to break camp and move on and progress. So sometimes you need to break camp and progress. But now the point is this: your question, the crux of your question is, when do you know? And that speaks to the discernment, that speaks to bringing this to the attention of the all-knowing God who you serve. So it is not a prescription like, oh, once you take the place. And I have people who would call and say, oh, now my boss is like this. Will give you a thesis of my boss. He doesn't do this. Now I need to leave. And then they expect you to say, leave, don't leave. It's very easy. And I wouldn't be as prescriptive as that. You, first and foremost, in it, sense things, put it before God, listen, and get divine guidance. If it is time to leave at some point, you would hear it. If it's time to remain, or you need to continue and the breakthrough will come, you would hear it. So then you should be asking, because up to now, I cannot even tell why I rejected certain job offers. They were big, but at some points I know the job offer comes and then I reject it, and then this company comes 2-3 years after the company collapses. And then it really justified the fact that, look, this is the right decision. But how do you get that right decision is for you to be in tune with God. And that is your basic task. Probably Papa P would find something for you on hearing from God in the next midweek.
All right. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been very, very insightful.
Lawyer,
Oh, yes.
please, there are still some hands up.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm talking about my own hand, please.
Okay. I'm going to give you 1 minute, and that will be the last one, please.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so quick one. I think Richard came back on the question about visibility, and he used packaging on that. There's just some perspective as well that I would want to give to that, especially in his case as an entrepreneur, someone who runs his own business as well. There's some nuance to this. So yes, there's a need to package to a certain extent. I think the packaging thing has a problem where you open the package and then you realize that it's empty. So there needs to be a beginning of substance, right? If there's a certain substance to it, then you can put that packaging out there. So let me give like an example, maybe to bring it to the photography space. So as a photographer, maybe you serve as a second shooter to a bigger photographer, and Richard would have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. And so you go with this more experienced photographer to events and you capture some of the things. With the permission of this photographer, you are allowed to put out some of these on your own page. Now, as a photographer yourself, you are aspiring to be able to cover a certain caliber of events, which will now become what people know you for. Yes, it's true that you cover smaller events here and there, but you want to be identified in a certain class, for which reason, with the permission of this more experienced photographer, you put out this type of events, right, on your, or this type of pictures on your page. Now, people will recognize you for this caliber of events. They'll bring money for that caliber of event. But when they do, you also need to be able to show that I'm able to deliver this level of excellence. Now, because you've gathered capacity by second shooting for other photographers, you can deliver to that level. So now the packaging is rewarding and it's not bringing disgrace, or it's not tarnishing your image, because people will go out there and say you didn't do well if you are not able to deliver. But once you are able to deliver, I'm sure you're able to do that. So even with events and things like that, there are events you do that you may not put out there. There are some that you would put out there because this is what you want other people who spend just a few seconds scrolling through your page would identify you with, and then we'll put it out there. Richard, for the rest of it, we'll schedule fufu at our place, then we'll discuss the rest. Thank you.
That's right, sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Prince. So that brings us to the end of today's service. Brother Dickson, God bless you so much for availing yourself and for leading this all-important discussion.